Yeah, balance is BS. It's on my website. You can go find it. I mean, I truly, truly feel this. And I think from my own journey and now hundreds of women that I've supported is I think oftentimes we are chasing an illusion. We are chasing something that is actually not achievable. It's almost like when you're chasing the sunset, you're never going to get to it because the horizon keeps moving. And same is the case with balance. Like, fun fact, in my first career, I was actually a high school special education math teacher. You could put all that together. And when we think about what true balance means, it means two parts are equal. And when we're talking about being living beings, human beings, nothing is ever going to be truly equal because we are constantly in motion. Things are constantly changing. It's just like within parenting, it's like you finally figure out how to get the kid to bed in less than 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, growth spurt happens. And then you have to it's like we have to give ourselves some grace and be flexible.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the show. Today I have on the show my friend Megan Caldwell, and she is the creator of the ROCKSTAR Framework and the host of the ROCKSTAR Mom podcast, helping high-achieving women ditch overwhelm and exhaustion so they can live with more presence, energy, and joy. After experiencing burnout twice herself and coaching hundreds of women, Megan now guides women off autopilot and out of people-pleasing perfectionism and the endless chase for balance. And that's exactly what we're diving into today, because she really does have this unique perspective on balance and how really balance is BS, as she says. We're going to dive into what she means by that, why fun is actually essential for our overall well-being and resilience, and what it looks like to live what she calls the ROCKSTAR Mom Framework, the ROCKSTAR Mom life, and what it actually takes for women to live a life that they actually love, where they actually feel like a rock star. I love Megan and I love this episode, so let's jump in. I'm here with Megan, and we actually just wrapped up recording for her summit. So we're like flipping the tables here, and I'm super excited to hang out with you again. So thanks, Megan.
Oh my
Thanks
gosh,
for hanging out.
it's like a party 2 times in a row. Thank you so much for
Yes.
having me today.
Yes. I love it. I love it. And I love what you do. I know we are so aligned on so many things. We chatted before we did the interview for your summit, and we're like so aligned. We have similar experiences with burnout and the fitness world and all the things. So I would love for you to share the work that you do helping women with overwhelm and exhaustion and burnout. You have your own burnout experience. Can you share a little bit about what drove you this direction, what brought you this direction, and how you help women?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep it as concise as I can. And I think, being in the coaching speaking space and really wanting to empower other women to live their best, most rock star life, it started with my own journey. And I've been through 2 rounds of pretty severe burnout. The first one came when I was working in higher ed. I was a brand new mom. And I mean, it showed up physically. It was panic attacks, anxiety attacks, to the point where I said, nope, I'm done. I'm going to let's move from LA up to Portland, which is where we live now. And I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom full time. Within a couple months, I bought my first business, which was a fitness franchise supporting moms. And I really felt like I had truly found my calling, and that it combined my love for fitness, education, and being able to spend time with my kiddos. And I was in that space for almost 9 years. But about 5 or 6 years in, I actually found myself creeping into a second round of burnout. At the time, I didn't know that's what it was, but looking back, nobody would know, even myself included, until some close friends called me out, where I was earning the gold stars. I was recognized as a top 3 franchisee in the country. I had 3 healthy kids, and we had bought our first home, and I was on the news station and all of these things. But on the inside, I felt like I was drowning. There was such a disconnect between the quote achievement that was happening on the outside and how I actually felt as a human. And so, again, it took people within my close circle to say, Megan, we're calling you out on this BS. What's going on? And that is when my personal development, my awakening, my journey started. It started in a therapist's office. It then expanded into coaches spaces, leading into energy healers, lots of different spaces. To really, I got curious in that moment, like, what does it take to live a life where I don't feel depleted all the time, where I don't feel like I'm having to mask and make it look like I have myself together, but where I can live out some of the ambition that I have and the passions that I have, but not at my own expense. And so that has really led me into the work that I do with women, which tend to be the ambitious working moms who are trying to hold their shit together. They are juggling the roles of career, motherhood, relationships, life, home. and feel that internal twing, like, wait, there's got to be a different way to do this. And so that's now what I have, the privilege, and I feel so grateful for the work that I'm able to do to help guide women to find what I call their most rock star life, where the outside matches the inside, where they are putting into the world and creating those ripple effects.
I love that. And I know there are a lot of women listening who are resonating with your story. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love your vulnerable share where you're like, oh no, like this happened again. Like I got myself through this
Yep.
burnout and then I felt it happen again because I think there's something there. There's for a lot of women, there can be a lot of shame around that where it's like, no, I know better.
Yeah.
Like I've been here before. I've done this before. I should know better. Did you have any of those feelings when you felt this happen again where you're like, crap, like I know myself, I know better,
Yeah, it's interesting. So in those first 2 rounds of burnout, no, I didn't. Again, head was down and I was living within a system of I must do more, I must achieve more, I must work long hours, I must do everything at my own expense. And since I have been on my own self-healing journey, there have been glimpses of me falling back into old patterns, which has
Mm.
been really frustrating, Hope. And that, like, I now guide women in this space. And it's also a testament that I am human.
Yeah.
So I have no longer, I have not gone into a third round of burnout, but I am able to catch some of those patterns and work through those so I can truly step into living a life where I don't have to worry about that anymore. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think it is interesting where it's like, I think especially as high achievers, like we want to get it right. We want perfection. We don't want to admit that we're wrong. And what I have found in my own experience and my own healing journey is the more that I share about my imperfections and my challenges, it allows other people to relate and say, "Oh, I'm not alone in that." Like, wow, Megan looks like she has her stuff together and she still has to have difficult conversations with her kids, or this challenge came up. And so I really try to show up to spaces just being as real and raw and authentic as I can, because we don't need to sugarcoat it anymore. Life is
Yeah.
challenging and it can also be so rewarding as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. 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 It's the both and. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you feel those patterns coming up, what are some of the stickiest patterns for you? And then what does it look like for you to kind of walk yourself through that and work through those?
Yeah. So for me in particular, I find myself going into rabbit holes of perfectionism mostly. I used to spend a lot of time in the people pleasing space. So it's like, oh, you want again, I own a fitness franchise. So you want fitness classes on a Tuesday night at 8 p.m.? Sure. Like we'll make it work. And it's like, now it's more of I feel so passionate about, I was going to say the work I do, but I know my husband would say, Megan, you're passionate about everything you do, which is true. I show up with a lot of zest and excitement. Is sometimes I can go down the rabbit holes of wanting to get it right, wanting to do it at the highest that I know I'm capable of. And the number one thing that I practice and preach, and when I take a bird's eye view back to like think about the work I actually do with women, it's helping teach them to slow down, to be more intentional, to tune inward, to check in with ourselves in terms of how we feel. And so when I feel, and as we talked about on our conversation for the Rockstar Mom Summit, it often surfaces in our body. So I know when I get headaches, that is a sign that I am feeling stressed typically about something. So then I can get curious to say, what in this moment is making me feel these things. Or I tend to feel, again, head, kind of upper neck areas. And so is really just listening for those signs, which I know you know so well and you preach to your audience as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's such good awareness. And I think that is, well, it's a testament to your your journey and the growth that you've had where you can recognize like, oh, that's what this headache means. And I think that's such an important piece is when you learn, because I think especially with burnout, it shows up so differently for everybody.
Right.
And there's no like, this is, if you're feeling XYZ, then you're for sure in burnout. Like it's so different for
Totally.
everybody. So I think I love that you pointed that out. Like for you, it's like the headache thing for me. It's like immediate trigger. Like I know I'm stressed about something. Like let me
Right.
figure out what's happening and why. And I feel like that's a really good takeaway in this conversation. It's just like, can you learn what those triggers are for you? Like those points where you're like, oh, that's what that means.
Absolutely. And one other thing playing off of something that you just said that sparked my mind is it's a practice. Is
Yeah.
it's not just a like, oh, I want to learn those. Now let me find it. Within my framework, I have what are called the ROCKSTAR practices. The first to being, giving yourself permission to actually slow down, to tune inward, to do all the things or not do all the things. And the second one is pause. And so it's each of these is a practice where, again, I've now been in this own self-care journey for the last almost 10 years. And to this day, it's still a practice. Does it get easier? Sure. Does it uncover other layers underneath the surface? Sure. And if we give ourselves permission to recognize this is an ever growing, like evolving journey for me to discover, because one thing I talk about too is just different seasons of life. So I've been an entrepreneur for 13 years and I'm in a season right now where I have my kids are a little bit older. They're 10, 12, and 15, which allows for more independence, more work time without interruptions of toddlers. And there's a lot more higher emotional need of my kids in this season. And so just really being able to be in tune with, like, in this moment, in this season, the awareness, as you say, of like what is actually going on for me in my experience here.
Yeah, no, that's so crucial. Yes. The other thing you talk about, I know, is about balance and kind of your perspective on balance, because you're like, no, balance is BS. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Yeah, balance is BS. It's on my website. You can go find it. I mean, I truly, truly feel this. And I think from my own journey and now hundreds of women that I've supported is I think oftentimes we are chasing an illusion. We are chasing something that is actually not achievable. It's almost like when you're chasing the sunset, you're never going to get to it because the horizon keeps moving. And same is the case with balance. Like, fun fact, in my first career, I was actually a high school special education math teacher. You could put all that together. And when we think about what true balance means, it means two parts are equal. And when we're talking about being living beings, human beings, nothing is ever going to be truly equal because we are constantly in motion. Things are constantly changing. It's just like within parenting, it's like you finally figure out how to get the kid to bed in less than 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, growth spurt happens. And then you have to it's like we have to give ourselves some grace and be flexible. And so I like to refer to this thing that often women, I think, call balance. And I'm not opposed to using the word. It's more of a juggle. It's more of alignment. It's more of this sense of harmony, is how do we take the different roles that we play, the different pieces of who we are, and figure out how to work with them so we feel aligned. And I think that alignment is very different from balance, because again, perception of balance is like, again, equal. I'm going to put in 50% at work in my business and 50% at home. And whereas alignment is, on this Wednesday, April 15th, 2026, what do I need in this moment to be able to regulate? One of the top things that women are seeking out in my circles is that inner sense of peace and that inner sense of calm. So no matter what's going on the crazy world around you, either within your home unit or the external outside of that, we can tap into that sense of peace. And so that's alignment. That is not finding balance, if you will.
No, I love that perspective, because I think that for a lot of women listening, for a lot of us out there, I feel like it's a little bit of a permission slip. And I feel like that it's kind of a load off where you're like, I'm trying to find this balance where, like you said, it's equal. Like, that's what our perception of balance is, where it's not always like that. Just like you said, like, okay, my kids are this age now and they need this more than this now. Like, it's not like you're changing diapers and you're having to give them snacks every 25 minutes when they're little, right? But now they need this. And so it's like, okay, it's different. And so every stage of life is going to give you that. It's going to throw something else at you. And so it's the alignment piece, I think, is so crucial, rather than us feeling like, okay, well, I'm an entrepreneur and I own this business and I have to have equal time here and equal time there. Like, it's not always going to be like that. Sometimes your kids are going to require more time than your business. Sometimes your business, you're going to have to sacrifice some things because your business is going to require more time. Like, I love that perspective shift of just finding the alignment in what feels good.
And I think that when we can, exactly, because it's all about, our human experience is how we feel. And so how do we get tap into those feelings of feeling good more often? And again, it's not neglecting feelings of pain or grief or any of that. That's part as well. But how do we bring ourselves back into that space of feel good, of alignment? And when we're able to do that, what happens is we're able to build resiliency. And it allows us to, again, know ourselves best. So in any given moment, when lifes us again, because it's going to happen. I'm talking about the big, hard things when your house burns down, true story in my world, or the small things when you see an email from a boss or a friend that like triggers you some way, is being able to tap into that sense of peace and calm. And that is building resiliency, knowing, having that inner knowing that no matter what life throws your way, no matter what you step into, you have everything within you to move through.
Yeah, that's so powerful. That's such a potent perspective. The other thing I know that is really important to you, speaking of like talking on that same thing of alignment,
Yeah.
and I've talked about this before on the show too, is I love that this is something also that we are like very aligned on. The alignment is about
Yes.
fun and like bringing
Oh my
more
gosh,
fun into everything, right? And I think that's been such a key thing for me. This has come up so much for me over the past, especially the past couple of years, like different like meditative journeys I've been on, different hypnosis, like this idea of fun, and like the archetype of the fool has come up, which is like bringing more fun. So can you talk about that and the importance of that?
Yeah, it's when I was in the depths of that second round of burnout, what came out again, originally in the therapy space, good or bad, we can talk about that another day, is I was actually depressed. And so again, I was living this like gold star life on the outside, but like the unhappiness and the depth of that. And at some point in my journey, I challenged myself to say, what does it look like to try new things? Like what actually like lights me up? What actually do I want to explore? And it really comes down to, I truly, truly believe that fun, play, and joy cannot be an afterthought. They're not just one more thing. It's like, let me figure out these other pieces of my life. I actually teach and preach and encourage that we lead from that space. And it's not saying like, okay, I'm just going to like Hawaiian vacation or vacation in Hawaii for the rest of my life. But rather it's like, how can we insert these small bits of fun and joy into our day to day? So maybe it is, I mean, I have my Megan's Pump Up playlist that comes out several times a week to just like bring a little bit more joy, boost the energy. I don't know if you can see it through the screen, Hope, but I wear tinsel in my hair
I saw it earlier. I was like, oh, your hair has sparkles. I love it.
all year round. And people, it's so funny. People are like, oh, did you get that because your kids got that? And I was like, no, my kids got it because I originally got it. Why do I wear sparkles in my hair? It literally is the fairy tinsel for those that maybe don't see us on camera. I think it's fun. I think it's fun. And that's what, and I think back to old versions of myself where I would never have worn tinsel in my hair or big baggy cargo pants because I would have been too concerned about what other people think. And so I think when we lean into more fun and joy, it allows ourselves to one, tap back into our inner child, but also to not take ourselves so seriously. Because again, the women that I work with tend to be really ambitious, high achieving, working moms or business moms. And it's like, sometimes we just have to let the guard down and like make silly faces and have a dance party and invite the girlfriend to try out the new board game place. Just, it's integral to our own well-being.
Hey, y'all, we'll get right back to the episode. But first, let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire, and you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care, because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing. This isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality, and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the Quantum Reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show. Yes, no, I agree with that so much. And I think it's so
there's like, it's so multi-layered, the whole fun thing. Cause like you said, you mentioned
Yeah.
that was the other thing I was going to bring up, because it is like this piece where it is also healing your inner child. And there's so much inner child healing that is,
Yeah.
I would say, necessary for us to really continue to grow and evolve on this journey, on this earth that we're on. And I think that is such a huge piece, is the fun piece. And I know that's been a big part of my own inner child healing part, is the fun piece, and, trying new things and bringing more fun into things that may not be so fun. Like for me, I hate spreadsheets. I hate
Uh-huh.
QuickBooks. Like I hate doing all those things. And so for me, that was my goal last year. Is like, how do I make this more fun? Like, okay,
I
I'll
love
go to
that.
this cute little coffee shop and I order something yummy to eat and I have my tea, and like, okay, now it's more fun. But it's like, how can you bring more fun even to the things that might not necessarily be fun?
Exactly. And that's what I love, that perspective. I love that you share that example. It's same as like, okay, some of the things, even around the house, like the dishes or the laundry, those are part of living in our day and age,
Yeah.
and we can either choose to like view them as another task that's never done, or like, again, how do we make it fun? I almost always like will pop a great podcast in while doing dishes, just because I'm like, oh, this is time that I get to like engage with some of
Yes.
my favorite podcasters, versus, and then all of a sudden it's within 5 minutes the dish is already done, right? So
That's it.
that's a great
Yeah,
example.
100%. Yes. No, I love that example as well. And speaking of, you mentioned this earlier, but I want to go back to what you were saying, because I wanted you to dive a little deeper into, you have your kind of your Rockstar Mom framework that you talk about. Can you
Yeah.
dive into that a little bit deeper? Because I love putting all these pieces together and giving something really tangible for the listeners to take away. So can you talk a little bit more about that framework that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Rockstar Mom Framework really was developed again from my own journey, and then really finding out, what do women need? And the original question was, what do women need for sustainable change? Again, coming out of a fitness wellness space, it was like, I can't stick to my healthy habits. So like there's still some of that built within my framework, but really it's gone a lot deeper in terms of getting into our inner knowing. And so four kind of main pillars or pieces of this framework. It's clarity, it's getting into action, it's actually integration, and then recognizing the power within community. So when I think about clarity, this always is the first step, where we need to get really, really clear in this season of life. What are our priorities, our personal values, and our vision? And, I was speaking at a group, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I was blown away. It was about 80 moms in the room. And I led them through a very brief personal values exercise. And I was blown away that less than 25% had ever engaged in something like that before for themselves. Maybe they talked about values in marriage counseling or values when it comes to their work environment. And so I know that when that foundation, when the Rockstar Mom Essentials are laid out, we can then build from there. Second is actually, we then need to get into action. There's something about just thinking about the things in the life that we want and laying out that vision, but how do we actually take the steps? And that's where there's 7 rockstar practices that come into place. I kind of name those first 2 in terms of giving yourself permission, pausing. There's also planning, really being in tune with your priorities. Actually, play is in there as one of them. It is so essential to let it be a practice of how we do this more regularly. And another one I just want to call out is praise. Is how
Mm.
are you regularly giving yourself credit, celebrating your
Mm.
wins, tuning into the progress? Because naturally we beat ourselves up and we lean into the negative, and so we bring that back out to our forefront. So those are kind of the first 2 steps: clarity, action. Do you want me to go on, or do you have any questions?
No, keep going. We'll go back. Keep going. You're on a roll.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next piece, the third main piece of this, is then the integration piece of this. Is once you get clear on the foundation, once you start to actually practice some of these things, integrating it, I found that to feel good, my approach within this framework is really, we are tapping into 3 main pieces: nervous system regulation and resiliency. I see those as 2 different things. Regulation in the moment, how we are bringing ourselves down. Regulation is, or I'm sorry, resiliency is how over time we're not operating at that state of heightened stress all the time. Again, this comes from a 2-time burnout survivor here. The other 2 pieces of that, which really tie into the nervous system piece, is the power of our mind. So mindset mastery is, our lives are just made up of the stories that we tell ourselves. And we know that stories are going to influence our feelings, are going to influence our actions, influence our results. And so when we tap into shifting the stories, shifting the narrative, shifting the perspective, we get to then influence how we feel. And then the third one, which is more of the practical, and again, this was kind of my area of expertise in my former space, is really creating sustainable habits and systems and routines. Is like, what are we actually doing to help ease some of that stress load in the real tactical? So it really is a mix of kind of some of that deeper inner work, questioning some of those beliefs and patterns alongside the tactical. And the last component of it is just community. Is I know for a fact that doing this work and diving into the hard conversations, trying things new, getting uncomfortable is just way easier and more fun when you're doing it alongside other women who are raising their hand and saying, yes, I know there's got to be a different way than to live, and I'm ready for that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that two things that were coming up when you were sharing all that. The community piece I love, because I think I talked about this on, I don't remember if it was my podcast or another podcast, but we were talking about that community piece. Because I mean, we as humans, like we are communal beings, like that's how we were designed. And I think so often, I know in my own journey, I was like Miss Hyper Independence, or I don't need help and I'm going to do it all myself, which there's
Totally.
a bunch to untangle there. But we're not meant to do things like that. That's not how we're meant to exist. And I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary on the Blue Zones, but
Yes.
one of the things that's like one of the core tenets of all these communities to have these, centenarians that live, 100 plus, the community piece is like like a foundational piece. Like it literally helps people live longer when they are in community, whether it's family or community at large. But I think we really underestimate the value of that and how it is here to help us, on our own journeys, but it's also here to help us just like to exist in like a deeper, richer way.
Yeah. And it's so powerful. I mean, just seeing how different women's communities have been continuing to grow and evolve, like it's so inspiring. I, of course, run my own community, our YRL community of your Rockstar Life Moms, but like, we don't have to do this alone. And again, I think that us coming together as women in community, like it's resisting against the patriarchy and the society that we're in, because they've wanted us to think that we have to do it alone and to kind of suppress and push us down. And so there's so much power that's created on so many different levels when we can lean into that space. And again, I think that there's so many different types of community. And so I love that you bring that up, where it's like the research says, just in terms of longevity, this is something that we need and crave and want, and that is okay.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. The other piece I wanted to pull from was the piece where you were talking about praise. I feel like I wanted to ask you about that, because I know from my own experience and just from the women that I work with, like that is a hard thing to like. I know for me, it was learning how to celebrate the small wins without making it like a scarcity thing, like a but thing. Oh yeah, this happened, but and making it like actually celebrating myself versus like, well, I didn't do this. So do you have any, like for the woman listening who's like, I have a really hard time celebrating myself, like how can we be better at celebrating ourselves?
Well, it's one of the practices, because it is a practice. So I want to lay that out to start, is like, it's hard right now because it's not something that you have been doing. So give yourself a little bit of grace. And just like you said, Hope, I always encourage to just start small and just acknowledge and let that build. One other analogy I'd love to give with this is there's a great book out there called The Gap and the Gain.
I love that one.
Yeah. And so basically that, I think for me and for everybody I share it with, is like, oh, a whole new perspective, where basically we have lived in this culture where it's like, we are taught to set goals really, really high or set ambitions up here. And we have a starting point. That is the power of pause right there, being able to know where you're at and where you're looking to go. And as we start to make progress towards that goal, we oftentimes, life is going to happen, as we talked about. And what do? Is we look up and we say, I'm still so far from that goal. I'm still 10 steps away. I'm still 2 years away. It doesn't feel like I'm even going to get there, and we'll fall off. We'll lose momentum. Our progress gets slower. Rather, I invite you to look at the perspective of, again, you have a starting point. You have that goal way up here, but you've made progress. So to measure the gain, which is where you started to where you're at right now. And that gain, it's almost like looking at like stairs on a staircase. Like, okay, there's 150 stairs to get to said goal. And if you've climbed 3 of them, my goodness, you've already climbed 3 of them. Like you are what, 1% closer to, I can't do the math right now, but like you've made progress. So it's really leaning into this whole concept of when we focus on that progress and the gain and we praise ourselves for it, we are actually rewiring the brain to then look for more evidence of that happening. That's our RAS in our brain, right? That is like constantly sifting information to say, okay, so if I'm focusing on the negative and the I'm not there and I'm not enough, your brain is actually looking for evidence
Or
to
more.
support that. Versus if we start the practice, and this is where I think, again, community can be so powerful in this. You know, we have a community space where it is just always welcomed to share wins and to share what you're working. And those can be professional, those can be personal, those could be small. Like I got the dishes done to like, I just signed a $10,000 client. Like there is no right or wrong when it comes to praise. And so I think it does start by shifting your perspective to say, let's count everything. Every penny that goes into this bank here of praising myself is giving me a little bit more confidence to allow me to see I can do this. I am making progress. So hopefully that helps a little.
Yes, no, it does. Thank you for that. And I think that's very it's very tangible for people just to start. I think breaking it down and making it small is always easier. Like, can we start small and then we can celebrate bigger things later? I think that's so important. And I love all of those examples. And do you have anything, as of course we could keep going on this all day because I love this conversation so much, and there's so many juicy things here for the women to take away with. Do you have anything that, before I ask you the last question I like to ask everybody, that you feel like we haven't touched on just to help women? Because I know the whole motto for you is to help women step into this rockstar mom identity. Is there anything that we've left out you feel like needs to be said?
Oh man, again, we could go on so many different tangents, but I think oftentimes like it comes back to the first practice, which is permission, which is really giving yourself permission to lean in. And sometimes that is even really hard to do. So it can take leaning into a coach or a mentor or a community or a group to help guide you and show you the way. And I think that's one of the main things is like, we don't have to do this alone. I think that's come up here. So yeah, I think we've actually talked a good amount about a lot of the depth of the work that I do, but
I love it. Yes. Yeah. That community piece, I think, can't be understated. So I'm glad that we touched on that a few times. And I do have one more question I'd like to ask you that I'd like to ask everybody before we wrap up. But before I ask you that, can you let everybody know where they can find you, point them in the right direction to learn all the things if they're interested maybe in working you and looking at the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Best space to find me is at my website, which is www.megancaldwellpdx.com. That's MEGANCALDWELL. P as in powerful, D as in driven, X as in X-ray.com. And on there, there's opportunity to book a free Rockstar Mom breakthrough call with me. I also have an amazing freebie on there called the Rockstar Mom Morning Reset, which is just a simple nervous system reset that you can use anytime, anywhere. You can also access my Instagram and stuff from there.
Perfect. Of course, I'll put links to all that in the show notes and you can go check it out. Give Megan a follow. Go check out her podcast.
Yes.
And the last question I want to ask you that I ask everyone, what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
Such a powerful question. I kind of want to loop back to what I was just sharing about is the most important and powerful thing to step in and live with purpose is we have to allow ourselves to do so. We have to take down the guard of perfectionism, of pleasing others, and truly give ourselves permission to put our own holistic health and well-being at the forefront as our number one priority, not even number two behind spouse or kids, like our number one priority. That is the way that we are going to have the time, energy, the inner knowing to be able to truly tap into that purpose and serve and give back in this beautiful world.
I love that answer. Thank you so much, Megan. Thanks for hanging out with us and for hanging out with me today. We had just a whole afternoon together. So great.
I love it.
Yes. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your insight. I know this is such an important conversation for the women listening. So thank you for bringing all of this goodness to us and for hanging out.
It was my pleasure. Thanks so much.